A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Thank you for joining us on this very important workshop on accreditation and quality improvement. I now request our Dean, CMMS AJU, to welcome the participants as well as the resource faculty for the workshop. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Arshana. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the Accreditation and Quality Improvement Workshop organized by the WHO Collaborating Center for Health Professional Educational Development at the College of Medicine and Medical Sciences, Arabian Gulf University, Bahrain. I would like to thank our two invited guest speakers in this workshop, Professor Somaya Hosny and Dr. Nina Abdul Razzak. A few words about Prof. Somaya. She is a professor of histology and cell biology at the College of Medicine, Suez Canal University, Egypt. Prof. Somaya serves as Dean for Faculty of Medicine in Egypt from 2010 to 2014. She got her master's degree in health professional education from University of Illinois. She is an EMR and WHO consultant in medical education, and she is an editor for Health Professional Education Journal and the journal, regional journal of microscopy and ultrastructure. She is also the head of the National Histology Promotion Committee in Egypt, and she is a board member of the National Authority of Quality Assurance and Accreditation in Education, NAQAAE, in Egypt also. He has established the Quality Assurance Unit and led the development of an internal quality system that enabled Faculty of Medicine at Suez Canal University to be the first national accredited school in May 2010, and also to be re-accredited in 2015 and 2021. So it's achievement. Congratulations, Professor Somaya, for this work in accrediting the medical school for 3 times.
She
has many international publications in the field of medical education. Dr. Nina Abdul Razzak. Dr. Nina is an academic consultant at Bahrain Education and Training Quality Authority, PQA. And for the past 3 years, she has served as a chair on several NAQAAE accreditation teams, reviewing academic programs in universities across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He holds a PhD from the Kingston University, UK, and a PhD in Education and Technology from Walden University in Minnesota, USA. Dr. Abdul Razzak has held various managerial and leadership posts in higher education, among them Vice Dean of Academic Affairs and Head of Department. Dr. Abdul Razzak has several publications in an international scientific journal. Her research interests include technology, integration, education, effective educational leadership, professional development, and good pedagogical practices in education. She is a reviewer on several international scientific journals, and interesting, she is the founder of the Journal of Teaching and Teacher Education. So welcome, Dr. Nina, and welcome you all. And I leave the floor to Professor Somaya Hosny to lead the workshop. Prof. Somaya, the floor is yours.
Yes. Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here with you in Gulf Arabian Medical School, and I'm happy to conduct this workshop with Dr. Nina Abdul Razzak. And I think I think you already disseminated the schedule, so we'll not need to repeat it again. If all the participants have the objectives of the meeting, if not, I think Arcana can share on the screen.
Yes.
So Arshana, you can share it just for.
Yes, 1 minute.
Yes.
Yes, these are the objectives for today's
The
workshop.
objective mainly for defining the accreditation and highlight the benefits of accreditation and list the needed requirements to be ready for accreditation of academic programs, and to describe the process of accreditation and outline the different accreditation standards of academic programs, and to describe the requirement for successful accreditation site visit, besides to recognize the pitfalls in preparing program self-study report and interpret on and comment on a part of a self-study report in an exercise which we'll give you. And lastly, to appreciate the roles and responsibility of faculty in the process of program accreditation. So we'll start our workshop with Dr. Nina Abdul Razzak will present the first presentation in this workshop. Please, Dr. Nina, go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Somaya. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Let's hope we will not have any issues. Okay. So I'll just, okay. So can you see my full screen now? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I would like to thank Professor Abdul Halim, Professor Somaya for the introductions, and the whole team at the College of Medicine and Medical Sciences, and also the WHO Collaborating Center for Health Professionals, Educational Development, for inviting me. It's both an honor and a pleasure to be here today. I'd also like to thank my employer, the Education and Training Quality Authority, for allowing me the time to be with you today. So basically, my presentation is going to be divided into two parts. The first part I'm going to do now right before we go into some exercises that Professor Somaya will be leading. And this part is going to be focusing on what makes or breaks academic program accreditation. So we're going to have about 7 outcomes for the first part. And then for the last part, which will come after the exercises, there will be 1 outcome to cover, and hopefully we will be able, through everything that we will explain today, and also through the exercises, to clarify some important points and aspects about accreditation and other related concepts such as quality assurance and recognition. I'm going to just get started with an icebreaker, which is called a KWL chart. I think many of you have seen this chart before. And basically, KWL is an acronym that stands for the words know, want to know, and what you've learned. So K is for know, W is for want, and L is for what you've learned. I would like to kindly ask you if you have a piece of paper or maybe your laptop with you, just to try to fill the first 2 columns of this chart. And in the first column, what you need to fill are statements in the form of bullet points, where you just write down anything that comes to mind that for sure about accreditation. So it could be if you know the definition of accreditation, or the phases and the process, the outcomes of accreditation, its benefits, whatever, just a few statements in the first column. And in the second column, we leave it for you to write questions. So if there are any areas related to accreditation that you would still like to have more clarity on, so just write those in the form of questions. And the last column we will leave empty for now, because this should be filled in the end of the workshop. So I'm just going to give you about maybe 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes to just try to fill your statements and questions before we move on. And I may ask some of you to share some of your questions also with us, just to give us an idea of what kinds of things you'd like to know more about today. So please go ahead.
think you can also write in the chat box if you want.
Yes, but I want you to save them because those are for you for comparative purposes towards the end. So, okay. So our minute and a half are up. I would just like to see if anyone would like to share their questions. I cannot see everyone on screen because I'm sharing my screen. So, just go ahead and tell us any questions that you may have, things that you'd like to know more about.
Anyone would like to answer, to give his question, please raise your hand.
Yes, also.
Professor Siraj is raising his hand.
Okay, please, Professor Siraj, go ahead.
Professor Siraj, you need to unmute your audio.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to ask whether you are going to cover the entire spectrum of medical education, that is accreditation of undergraduate units or schools, as well as the postgraduate units.
Okay, so that's what I will answer this question now. Actually, no, I will not really be going into the specifics of medical education per se. It will be more general in terms of like some tips on what to expect during the accreditation visits, how to like avoid some pitfalls in writing the report and in providing the evidence and things like that. So it will be more general than focused on medical education. And the reason for this is because I wasn't sure about the audience. I thought we would have audience from different colleges, even like College of Education at AGU. And I thought it would be something that would benefit all types of audience. And you can, of course, take what we give you today, and then it can be customized for your needs and purposes, depending on the disciplinary area. So that is really what we will be doing today. Maybe Professor Somaya during the Q&A sessions and during the exercises, she would be a better fit to give you some examples related to, accreditation of medical education programs per se, because that is her area. It's not mine. And I'm sure you could also benefit from her experience, having undergone like 3 accreditations in her university and passing the accreditation, mashallah. So hopefully she will be helping you with that.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, any other questions? Anyone wrote questions about areas you would like to find out about, inshallah, today? Dr. Achara, can you see any hands up?
Yes, Professor Sakera has raised his hand. Yes, Professor Sakera.
Please, yes.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, my question is very generic. Who and how is the quality of accreditation commissions is evaluated or regulated?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a big question. Okay, so let's keep that. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to cover that one, but we will see. Okay, with the discussions and all of this. So that's for you to keep in your column. And then, in the end of the workshop, if you have questions listed there that we did not cover, then it will be like a good way for you to pursue those questions, further. I think Dr. Sulaima or Professor Sulaima, right? Your hand is up.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, I'm from Sultan Qaboos University from Muscat, College of Medicine. Actually, I would like to say what I wish to learn.
Yes.
And it's very much the title of your talk, actually. But instead of being a full accreditation process, I would like to know, how do we really strike the balance when we write a self-study or self-evaluation report between what we claim we do well and how much we should leave it to the panel to decide? Because sometimes when you do, Yeah, sometimes we overdo it by bragging ourselves, and then you say, no, we should leave it to them, and so on.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I think my video is off. Basically, that's what I.
Yeah, so that is very relevant what I'll be talking about today. So thank you for your question, and I hope that you will get a clear answer on it by the end of today's workshop. So anyway, for time purposes, because I have a lot to say and not enough time to say it, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And just share with you, the outcomes that I've put for myself are very similar to the objectives that Professor Somaya shared in the beginning. So I'm not going to read them all now because it will be time consuming. But what I've done is before I start each section, I put the outcome that is relevant to it. So the first outcome is the definition of accreditation. And the reason why we are starting with this is because there are some key terms in any definition that we find for accreditation that we need to stop at and clarify. Because many times, words like accreditation and quality assurance and recognition are all used interchangeably when they really do not mean the same thing. So I felt that it would be important to just define accreditation and then go on and explain the differences between them and the other related exercises or processes. So of course, if we go to the literature, we will find many different definitions of accreditation. And the one that I've chosen for us today is really one that is very simple and straightforward, and it reads as accreditation is a form of external quality assurance process under which services and operations of educational institutions or programs are evaluated by an external body, an accrediting agency, to determine if applicable standards are met. Now, this definition entails several key terms that we need to stop at. The first one are applicable standards. Of course, we know that whenever we are going to take on an accreditation exercise, it has to be done against a set of specified standards. Sometimes the standards will be depending on the discipline, they'll be very specific. Sometimes the standards will be more general. But what we need to know is that any program or any organization, if they are going to undergo accreditation, it is a must that when they are evaluating themselves, doing the self-evaluation, that they do that against the standards of the accrediting body. So that is really very, very important. You put them there in front of you and you try to see, how you are meeting those standards or not. So this is very important. Now, another thing is that usually the accrediting body is always external. Now, in quality assurance terms, whenever we talk about an external entity, sometimes it is mistaken to be external to the program or to the college, but always the word external means outside of the whole institution or the whole university. So that's important, that the accrediting agency is from outside the university. And a third key term that I want to stress on is the very important term external quality assurance. Now, of course, what we need to remember, and this is something we will emphasize today, is that there are two types of quality assurance. There's internal quality assurance, which is led by the institution or by the college, the program itself, and there is external quality assurance. Now, what the external quality assurance, any kind of exercise, whether it is for accreditation purposes or any other purpose, what it is doing is it is coming to check whether or not you as a program or an institution, you have a solid and robust internal quality assurance system in place or not. And I cannot emphasize this point enough today, that really the starting point for anything you want to be subjected to, whether it is a quality assurance audit or review, whether it is an accreditation visit, whether it is a recognition, let's say, exercise, the starting point is internal quality assurance. If you do not have a strong and solid internal quality assurance system in place, then what's going to happen, it's going to become very difficult for you to pass any of these exercises. So that should be the starting point. And this is why really accreditation and quality assurance are very, very like interlinked. And you need to start with yourselves first internally so that you can pass any kind of external quality assurance or accreditation process. Now, the difference between just external quality assurance per se on its own and accreditation is that, for example, us here at the BQA, we are not an accrediting agency. We go and we review all of the universities in Bahrain, apart from AGU, which is, you know, a regional university, but we don't go to review them for the purposes of accrediting them. We do not have the authority to close or open programs, but we go as peer reviewers to help them help themselves, to basically tell them what is strong about their quality assurance system internally and what are some areas of improvement that they still have so that they can, you know, become stronger in terms of quality assurance. So this is why we say that external quality assurance is different from accreditation. The only difference is that when it is accreditation, it is ending with a result, either a yes or no, that you pass accreditation or you don't pass accreditation. And then, you know, they're giving you some kind of authority to award and to license, basically, if you want, like certain qualifications, which, you know, an external quality assurance review on its own will not do. So this is the definition. Now, of course, we need to understand that accreditation is both a status and it is a process. When we say it is a status, it is basically what you get after, you know, undergoing an accreditation review or a visit or whatever. So if you pass, you're called an accredited, let's say, institution or an accredited program. So that is your status. Now that status is very important. Why? Because basically it's sending out a message to the community that you are an accountable program or an accountable institution, that you are responsible, that you are able basically to gain the trust of the relevant stakeholders, and that what you are providing, you know, at high quality or according to certain standards. So the status is very important. However, having the status of being an accredited program or an accredited institution is not sufficient on its own. The story does not end there. Because as we know, there's the expectation from any accrediting body that you are going to basically continue meeting its standards and complying with its standards, right? And for this reason, what they do is they come and they actually revisit you to check basically whether you can still hold that status of accreditation, whether you become re-accredited or not after a certain period of years. So the accreditation status is not for life, right? It's always time bound with a certain period of time, for a certain period of time. Another thing is what the accrediting body will focus a lot on is they want to see your potential as a program or institution to go beyond quality assurance, to go beyond just meeting their standards. What they want to see is your potential also to enhance your quality. Because really the starting, we said that the starting point is basically you meeting certain standards and having solid internal quality assurance, but you should not stop there. You should shoot for also a quality enhancement, which comes after you prove that, well, we are meeting certain standards, right? So there is good and there is better. And this is what quality enhancement is. We're meeting standards, but also we have mechanisms in place. We have a plan, we have policies, we have procedures to basically even get better. Okay, so quality assurance and quality enhancement are not the same things. But again, as I said earlier, quality assurance is always your starting point. Your internal quality assurance is always your starting point for everything else that you want to do. Also, in terms of accreditation, as we said, its outcome is usually yes or no, you're accredited or not accredited. And some, accrediting bodies, like for example, the NCAAE or ETAC as it is called now, you can get limited accreditation, okay, and that is fine. And also what we need to understand is that if the accreditation is for something that is specific, like a unit or a program, then usually it is called specialized accreditation in comparison to, let's say, accreditation of the whole institution or university. I I talked about this, about usually how the accrediting body will be external now. Sometimes the accrediting body will be like, let's say, a state-based body or government agency. Sometimes even the accrediting body could be another higher education institution, either that is local, domestic, regional, or international. For the second outcome, which I've started a little bit talking about, basically discussing the difference and the associated links between terms such as accreditation, recognition, and quality assurance. As I said, starting point is quality assurance. So we need to talk a little bit about this. Quality is really like a multi-dimensional concept. So there are many things related to quality, and it impacts so many different things. It impacts the employability of your graduates. It impacts basically the chances of them, for example, getting placed in an internship or, like clinical, sites or not, because if they're coming from an accredited program, usually the hospitals or any employers will be more willing to give them a chance to take them in, for internship. It impacts mobility a lot. Like if students want to transfer from your program to another program, there are more chances that their credits will be accepted if they're coming from an accredited program. And also if they want to go into graduate studies, for example, this will increase their chances of getting, accepted. There's also, in relation to quality, it's very important because it impacts, the issue of trust of the stakeholders, mostly the students and their parents, and also the employers. So it can either, make you be trusted as a program or not trusted. It can impact also your enrollment, meaning more students would be wanting to join your programs if, you're known to be accredited. And another thing that's really important is that it secures that kind of harmonization and comparability internationally, because, we need to remember the standards that are being met when you undergo any kind of quality assurance review or even accreditation review are more or less the same. If you go to any framework, and I'm going to show you this after a few minutes, any framework that you take from around the world, if you go benchmark frameworks, you will notice that the standards are more or less the same. They're all looking at the same kinds of things, right? And this is good because if a program is accredited and the student goes, let's say, travels to another country and they want to, let's say, transfer, okay, to a program that is similar but in a different university. Now that university, well, they know that this program has been quality assured and it meets certain standards, then it is harmonious in a way to what we here in this foreign country are offering, and that it is comparable, right? So basically it ensures that there be this harmony and comparability in offerings when it comes to programs, and that is why it is very, very important. Of course, what quality assurance entails is a lot of assessment and evaluation, a lot of monitoring, a lot of basically collection of data, analysis of data, storing of data. That's important. And I know it's bothersome to many people, but this is how it is. Okay, and there are benefits to that really. And also with quality assurance, the most important thing is improvement. You need to prove as a program that you don't only monitor and evaluate and collect the data and then store the data on the shelf. No, what you do is you use that data to develop improvement plans, and you need to have improvement plans which are not just on paper, but that are actually implemented, and after they're implemented, they themselves are being monitored in terms of their effectiveness, what's working, what's not working, and we keep doing this until we close the quality assurance loop. So that is very, very important. You need to just keep trying to fix things until finally you reach a point where you say, okay, well, now it is working, so we don't need to add any more interventions. So we can move on after that to just sustaining this good practice, and hopefully with time, you start enhancing the quality of that practice. So the last thing I want to say, which is really very, very important, is how can you get all of this to happen? Something you need to remember, quality assurance is not a one-man show. It can never be the responsibility of one person, let's say in the college or in the department or in the program, etc. It is a team effort, and all of the stakeholders need to be involved in it, you know, from the top leadership all the way down. Because when the accreditation teams come and visit you, they are going to be looking at everything. They're going to be touring your facilities. They're going to be interviewing everyone who is related to this academic program and asking questions. And let me tell you, they will be very able to sense if really there is a quality culture in this academic program or not. Okay, they will be able to sense it very, very easily. And if they feel that really the quality assurance is the business only of a few people in this program, you will be given a recommendation on that. Okay, because the most important thing is to create a quality culture. And to create a quality culture, you need to have two main things. Number one, you need to have buy-in from each and every person involved in the program. So everyone needs to believe in the importance and the value of quality assurance. So here comes the role of the leadership. They need to work on raising awareness about the importance and value of quality assurance. And number two, they need to educate people about its policies, procedures, and practices. Because we have to be honest, okay, none of us go into education, higher education, knowing, you know, what to do exactly and what counts as quality assurance and what does not. So training is a must. Everyone needs to be trained. Now, once that is done, what needs to happen if you want to have a culture, you need consistent implementation of quality assurance policies and procedures. Now, the word consistent is very important for any accrediting team. What they mean by consistency is that they want to see that everyone is practicing according or performing according to the QA policies and procedures, and not just a few. So they will see, they would not like to see, you know, something done in a few course files, but not done in another course file. They don't like to see that because that proves inconsistency of implementation. The second thing with consistency, they want to make sure that the good practices are happening on a daily basis. So they're a part of the routine of the program and not just happening like a few weeks before the visit. Okay, just because, oh, we know they're coming, so we better get it done. They're going to look at this. No, no, no. It has to be built in. It should be a system in place where everyone is doing it, everyone believes in it, and they're doing it. And there are people and there are mechanisms who go and check that actually everyone is involved. So really, this quality culture is a must if you want your quality assurance system to be solid and robust. And again, I say it, it starts with the leadership, you know, top down. They have to play a very important role in this. And usually the work that is related to quality assurance is very time consuming. It is tedious. So if you want your quality assurance really to succeed internally, you need to have people dedicated for it, or at least if not dedicated, they need to somehow be compensated with time or anything else, because it's not really an easy job. And it's important to have different structures, quality assurance structures in place. If you are a college, you should have, for example, a quality assurance office at the college level. And then at the department level, you need to have like a quality assurance committee. And then within that committee, you could have, for example, quality assurance coordinators per program. So this is how it happens, and all the reports to all. And this is how you ensure that you have the kind of monitoring you need to ensure consistency of implementation. Trust me, consistency of implementation is something any accrediting or quality assurance team will emphasize and focus on a lot in all of your practices. And this is one thing that will really make you succeed in these kinds of visits. I actually covered, you know, several outcomes now. I tend to do that. I jump slides without going to the slides themselves, but that's okay. Now, according to one model by Randall in 2008, he was talking about the purpose of quality assurance. We already mentioned some, so I'll go over them very quickly. One of the purposes of quality assurance is accountability. So basically, to make the programs and the universities accountable, for whom? Accountable basically for the main stakeholders, right? Students, parents, and employers. Now, also another purpose of quality assurance is providing information. When you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing in terms of quality assurance practices, automatically what you're doing is you're collecting a lot of data and storing it, right? So that data becomes readily available for anyone who comes, asks you for data, whether it is the state, the government, whether it is like some funding agency that wants to support you in some way, whether it is employers, etc. You already have the data there. Okay, it's ready, it's analyzed, you have come up with conclusions based on the analysis, you're doing something about it. So one of the purposes of QA is really to provide information. And the last purpose is quality enhancement. You can only get better if first you meet the required standards in terms of quality assurance. Now we come to the last important concept, which is related to quality assurance, which is recognition. Now, recognition, again, like accreditation, it is based on your internal quality assurance system. Because in recognition, what really any recognition team or entity is looking at, it is coming to check basically the level and the validity of your qualifications, right? And when we're talking about the level of qualifications, we mean, let's say, if it is, let's say, a graduate program qualification or an undergraduate, they want to see that what you are offering is at the right level, not too easy, not too difficult. And this is why any recognition team will look very closely at your learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are the first thing they look at. They want to see, are those learning outcomes really fit, let's say, for a master's student, okay, or a PhD student? And they will look at your assessments a lot to determine also their level of complexity and difficulty. They will look, of course, at your study plan very carefully to see if your courses progress from, focusing on breadth of knowledge and skills, moving all the way up to more like depth of knowledge and skills. So they will look at that, and they're going to check if you're really teaching these students what you're supposed to be teaching in such a qualification. And the whole purpose of recognition is basically to tell you where your qualifications stand in comparison to other international qualifications, right? And again, like accreditation, they help with the same things, but mainly with transfer of credits from program to program, or with mobility. If you want to go, to another university, just move or go to graduate studies, and for employment and things like that. But also what is really good about recognition, if you know that students are coming from a recognized, let's say, program, and they want to enter, let's say, into your program, the recognition will ensure basically the quality of the admitted students, because you know that they're coming from a program that was recognized by some, panel of experts. So it means that these students must be of a certain quality. So you're securing quality in your admitted students. So really, this is the difference between the three terms. Now, what I did is I went and I formed this table for you. It is a comparative table which shows you all of these different exercises: internal quality assurance, external quality assurance, accreditation, and academic recognition. And I put a lot of the information that I just gave you in it, and some more information. And this should be given to you as a handout, because I sent it to be as a handout for your reference. Okay, so these are the important aspects I wanted to first start with, so that now when we speak about accreditation, we know the difference between it and external quality assurance. We know the difference between internal and external quality assurance. We know the difference between recognition and accreditation, and we don't use them all interchangeably. I mean, when you speak Arabic, it's even a bigger mess. okay? Because they use the same word sometimes, like mu'tamad for everything, like, accredited, quality assured, recognized. It's all like one word that defines everything. And then you're not really sure what they're talking about exactly. Anyway, the benefits of accreditation, I've already said a lot of this, and I'm just going to say that basically maybe one benefit that I did not mention is that honestly, whenever like you're undergoing accreditation or even a quality assurance review, the good thing about it is that usually it provides like opportunities for everyone to get their hands wet in terms of continuous improvement, because this is what quality assurance is, just continuously improving on an ongoing basis. And that is maybe one of the most important benefits of undergoing accreditation. To go to outcome for basically the process of accreditation, it's made up of 4 phases. The first phase, of course, is the self-assessment, the self-evaluation. And of course, the result of your self-evaluation will be a report. And we're going to talk a lot about this today, and we will do the exercises on this also. I just want to say something very important about the self-evaluation and the self-evaluation report. You need to, number one, as I said before, ensure that your self-evaluation is comprehensive, meaning it is covering all of the standards of the accrediting body. That is very important. So you include all of that in your self-evaluation report. Another thing is you need to make sure that you are being honest, okay, in your self-evaluation report. Honesty is the best policy for any accreditation team. They will respect you more and they will appreciate you more if they feel that when they're reading your self-evaluation report that you are being honest, okay, that you're telling them what you have, what you're strong at, and what areas, you're not that strong at and you still need to improve. Do not be afraid to show basically that you have areas of improvement. Actually, I know when I get self-evaluation reports to read, and if I'm reading and I feel that the grass is all green, on the part of the program, that raises a red flag automatically for me. Like, no, there must be something wrong, huh? And it's not really acceptable that your self-evaluation report just be descriptive. It's supposed to be a critical narrative. So you need to be criticizing yourself, okay? And criticizing yourself for the purpose of what? For the purpose of improvement. So this is very, very important. There is nothing that an accreditation team will hate more than seeing claims in your self-evaluation report. And then when they come during the visit, they see that none of those claims or some of those claims are not true. Okay, that is not good. You are not leaving a good impression if you write claims in your self-evaluation report that you cannot support. Okay, that you cannot do this. Don't do that, because you will be harming yourself big time. And they can catch it, trust me, they will catch it easily. Now, another thing is, in terms of the self-evaluation report, any claim that you make, you need to support it with at least a piece of evidence. You could use more evidence, and that's okay. But, you use in-text citations to write your evidence number after each claim. And we will talk more about the evidences and the coding of evidences and things like that later on. The next phase in the accreditation is, of course, the visit. What happens during the visit? They will come, they will look at everything, and they will interview all of the relevant stakeholders, starting from senior management to the faculty, admin staff, students, alumni, external examiners, external moderators, if you have those, an advisory board, if you have it. So everyone's getting the students, of course, big time, they will be interviewing them, okay? So everyone gets interviewed. Now, it's really very, very important that you inform the whole university of this accreditation visit. Everyone needs to understand who's coming, why they're coming, when they're coming, what are the expectations, how am I, let's say, as a student going to be involved in this? Okay, no one will be wondering, like, what do I have to do with this, okay? No, everyone is involved. Sometimes these accreditation teams, depending on the accrediting body, they could do ad hoc interviews. Okay, like one of them could be going, let's say, to the restroom, and they see a student or a group of students and they start talking to them, okay, and asking them questions. So everyone needs to be on board, everyone needs to know. Okay, so that is one way that you'll be prepared. The third phase, of course, will be the decision that the accrediting body comes out with, either that you're accredited or not, or you get limited accreditation. And after, of course, this phase is the fourth phase, which is the follow-up. And so basically here, you are just, they're coming to check whether you're still complying with their standards or not. Okay, I know that my time is up. I'm just going to take half a minute, if you allow me, Professor Somaya. I just want to show you, I talked about this before, how the standards of different frameworks are more or less the same. Okay, so what I did, I went and I did a benchmarking exercise between the framework of the NCAA, the framework of the UAE, which is CAA, and the framework of the European Quality Assurance Agency. Now, the European Quality Assurance Agency and the CAA and the NCAA, they're all also accrediting agencies, okay, not just quality assurance. And you will notice, if you look at their standards, a lot of them are repeated. Now, for the NCAA, they have a framework for their graduate studies, which I did not put here. In it, you will also find a standard for research and community service, which you will find in the CAA and also in the EQAA. Okay, but really this is just for you to see that you're always being evaluated almost on the same kinds of aspects, regardless of what framework. And whenever the accrediting body is trying to reach a judgment about any of these standards, what they will rely on is your claims in your self-evaluation report, your supporting materials and evidence, the interviews, what they hear there, the site visit tour that they will do in your campus and facilities. And also sometimes they will ask you for evidence on site during the visit. So you need to be ready and prepared, you know, to share some of that evidence with them. I'm going to stop here because my time is up and just give the floor to Professor Somaya. And then I will see you afterwards, also after the exercises, and we can continue more, talk about, you know, the evidence and talk about the self-evaluation report a little bit more. So thank you very much. And there will be time for questions and answers in the end also. Okay. So
thank
Professor
you,
Somaya, sorry, I took half a minute extra.
No problem. Thank you. It is very informative, and all of us, I think, benefit from your presentation. Okay, I will share my presentation now. Okay, is it clear now?
Yes, yes.
I will talk about the pitfalls in program self-study report, and this presentation is based on pitfalls on the self-study reports in Egypt, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, and Emirates. So this is not my personal view, but it is representing from many reviewers who shared in accreditation visits in all these countries. So I will talk about general comments on the self-study report and specific comments related to the standards. And as you see from Nina's presentation, most of the standards of different accrediting bodies are much more similar. So we'll start with the general comments on the self-study report. I will talk first about the writing format of the self-study report, and on the process, and on the content. So we'll start with the writing format. The first pitfall in writing format is not following the order of practices or standards or substandard. Each accrediting body has certain standards, substandards, practices or indicators, and when we write the self-study, we have to follow this order for two reasons. The first is not to confuse the reviewer, and second, so as not to miss any one of the practices. So you have to follow the order. The second is abbreviations. The abbreviations, we have either no list of abbreviations. Sometimes we didn't find any list of abbreviations. Sometimes there's missing abbreviations, and sometimes they're not arranged alphabetically. So we have to take care of all of this. Then no consistency in titles or names throughout the report. What we find sometimes is that the committees with different name in each part of the self-study department, different names, even sometimes the program itself and the qualification of the program is written in different ways inside the report. Another one is non-homogeneous report. Always, as you know, each group of people write one of the standard. And then there is no homogeneity in the writing styles and in everything. So someone is the leader of the self-study report should revise all of this and ensure the consistency and homogeneity of the report. Language, of course, language, we sometimes find linguistic spelling mistakes, grammar mistake. So this is not, should not happen. And also someone should revise everything there. Regarding the process, first thing is external benchmark selection. Each program should select the external benchmark which we will compare the program with. In selecting, there should be similarity in everything. What we see is that differences in educational strategies between the program and the external benchmark they selected, different in curriculum structure, different in program profile, date of establishment, number of students, number of staff, etc. So this will create a lack of some KPIs. We'll find them writing not applicable, not applicable. They didn't find a benchmark to compare with because there's complete difference between the two systems. And this creates obvious also wide gap between the two programs. So we have to be very critical in selecting the external benchmark to be similar to the college program. It is not logic to select, for example, a very old institute to compare with very new program. So you have to take care of all of this. Target benchmark setting. As you know, there is always actual benchmark, internal benchmark, external benchmark, and then you put your target benchmark, what you want to reach to. So you have to be critical in putting your target benchmark. What we see sometimes that some people are putting a very high benchmark, which is hard to be achieved. Others put very low benchmark, which give false impression of achievement. And in both things this is not correct. Limited involvement of faculty members in the self-evaluation, and Nina talked about this very well, that everyone in the program should have, in one way or another, a participation in the quality assurance process. So what we see is that limited number shared in the process. Then inconsistency between the self-study report and the self-evaluation scale. Some accrediting bodies ask the program to rate itself against criteria from 1 to 5, for example. So sometimes you find under one of the practice, we say, for example, we have insufficient number of faculty members in some specialties. And then you find the program giving itself 5 out of 5. So there is inconsistency between evaluating themselves and the self-study report. Let us go to the content. First, there is discrepancy between Arabic and English vision. And when you see that, of course, most of the programs write the self-study report in English, but when you go for the visit or for anything, you find Arabic missions which is different than the English mission they wrote in the self-study report. Description without analysis, as Nina talked about this very well also, and she said that they just describe things without any analysis, without talking about their strengths, their areas of improvement, and this should not be done. The practice, you have to cover each practice very well. So sometimes we find one practice is not addressed at all. Sometimes we find one of the practice is insufficiently addressed. Each practice, you will find items for each practice. So you have to look for each item in the practice itself and ensure you covered it. So what we find that there's sometimes some part of the practice, for example, and at the end, you should periodically review. So they didn't talk about this area at all. So you have to cover all the practice. And sometimes we find redundant narrative without any reason, repetition, and which is making the reviewers uncomfortable at all. irrelevant tables or figures are inserted in some practice. And once you find a table in one practice is not relevant to it at all. For example, standard of mission and goals. You find a table of curricular changes. So it is not relevant to it. The evidence is very important, of course, to put an evidence for everything. So sometimes you find missing evidence, irrelevant evidence. When you look for the evidence, you find it has nothing to do with narrative you wrote. And then sometimes you find a blank page without any evidence, or just a title without anything. And sometimes if it is like a links, the evidence put as a links, you find the links are broken. So all of this should be taken care of. Still in the content, inconsistency of reporting data or numbers throughout the report, the text, the KPI report, the other evidence document. You find different things. The number of students different from year to year, the number of faculty members, the percentage of achievement of indicator, and so on. So that's what we see in some visits. Website sometimes is not updated, and there is a missing essential data. For example, the curricular structure is not there in the website. So you have to update the website before the accreditation visit at least. Quality improvement loop is incomplete. So the first is data are reported, but without interpretation, as we said before. Data are reported and interpreted, but without any action plan. Or there is an action plan that dates more than a year ago without any provided follow-up. And lastly, no evaluation of the action plan to close the quality assurance loop. So all of this, the quality improvement loop is very important for in writing the self-study report. Discrepancy between what is written in the self-study report text and what is written in the program or course specs. For example, the graduate attributes. You will find the graduate attributes in the text, in the SSR report. And then when you look at the program specs, you find another set of graduate attributes. Maybe they update it and they forget to update it in the program or course specs. So all of these are pitfalls we find in the visits. The program ILO is very important. Sometimes it is not in the appropriate category. Some agencies divide them into competencies, some divide them into knowledge, skills, professionalism, whatever. So you will find something related to the knowledge in the professional competencies, or something related to the attitude in the knowledge, and whatever. Other thing is too many program ILOs. Some accrediting bodies really define the number of ILOs, others not. So you have to have a reasonable number of ILOs to be able to, program ILOs to be able to measure. Sometimes the program ILOs, the action verbs used are not measurable. Like no, like whatever, something you can't measure. So there are certain action verbs all of us know you have to use during writing your program ILOs. Also the complex outcomes, a very long outcome with many verbs in it, which is difficult to be measured. In logic chronological sequence, some people will put the operational plan shows approval date prior to the mission update. How this will be done. Course developed and approved prior to the program learning outcomes. All of this is not correct, so, and should be taken care of. Those was, I talked about the general comments, and I will not talk about specific comments related to standards. These are the areas where we find the most areas the reviewers give recommendations. The standard of mission goals, program management, and the quality assurance. These are 2 or 3 standards in some accrediting bodies. The first is no defined periodicity for revising the mission and goals. They didn't write that the mission and goals is revised every 5 years, every 3 years, whatever. And you didn't find anything about this in the evidence, or the people don't know about it, anything. Policies and procedures not well disseminated and not consistently implemented throughout the program. So they have some policies and procedure written, but the people don't know about it, and some people are implementing it in a different way than others. Limited response of stakeholder to the surveys. They have a lot of surveys, but there are limited response. So how to get a valid results if the response is very low? No comprehensive addressing for the independent reviewer comment. As you know, you have to have an independent reviewer to revise your self-study report before you submit for accreditation. So you have to take all the comments of the independent reviewer and include in your self-study, in your program, and then in your self-study report. No structure, mechanism, or procedure to identify potential leaders. We always find this defect in this area, and we give recommendation in this area. You find they told you we have a workshop for the leader, for the people to be leaders, workshop in leadership. But how do you identify them? They are potential leader. How do you identify that this will can be a leader? You have to at first train them and then assign them some leadership position and then evaluate them to see if they can be leaders or not. No clear academic risk management plan. There should be a risk plan, a risk management plan in your evidence. Inappropriate selection of external benchmark, as I told you before, with difference in no similarity between the program and the external benchmark. Then the teaching and learning standard. The first is no comprehensive periodic review of the academic program. This is very important to have a comprehensive periodic review of the academic program and to show the reviewers evidence for that. Inaccurate mapping of course ILOs to program ILOs. I found someone wrote one of the program ILOs, assess the mental status of the patient. And then in the course ILO, they said, describe the family files, something which is not relevant at all. So there's sometimes inaccurate mapping. No mapping of assessment methods to course ILOs. You have to write all the assessment methods used for each course ILOs. This one will use MCQ, for this one will use OSCE, for this one will use OSPI, and so on. So you have to have mapping, complete mapping of the course ILOs to the assessment methods you will use. Internship is not mapped to PLOs. Internship is a 1 year, one full year with rounds or courses, and it should be mapped to the PLOs to ensure that the PLOs are achieved in the internship. Sometimes you find it not coordinated at all. There should be a coordinated for the internship year, field supervisor, and the cooperation between the field supervisor and the faculty supervisor, and so on. And sometimes you didn't find any assessment, appropriate assessment for the internship year, which should be done either by portfolio or by end of the period of internship by exam or something as you decide in your program. No structured comprehensive blueprint for some courses. Every course should have a blueprint, and all of you know that the blueprint is, the assessment blueprint is very important, and it should have the content areas and the weight of each area, and then in the horizontal row you should find the taxonomical levels of the cognitive domain from the recall till the evaluation, and the weight of each question in each domain. So you have to say that there are 5 questions in the domain of recall, 5 questions in the domain of evaluation, in the level of evaluation, and so on. So the blueprint should be very structured. And the students, the standard of students, the first defect we see is that the admission policies are not revised based on an analysis of cohort performance. So you have to analyze your cohort performance. If you find, for example, that the performance is below average, so you have to revise your admission criteria to allow for more high caliber students, something like this. Insufficient training of a student on academic integrity and avoidance of plagiarism. When you ask the students in the meeting, you find them don't know anything about the plagiarism, and they should avoid it and so on. No clear policy for giving student performance-related feedback. This is also a common defect we find, that they give a student feedback with the grades of the exam, just the marks. And you shouldn't do that. You have to give the student personalized feedback so as to define his areas of strengths and weakness and see how to improve them. No early detection and support of academically at-risk students. You have to have a mechanism for detecting early detection, not at the end of the year, early detection of at-risk student, and show the reviewer how you support them. Lack of a structure mechanism for communicating with alumni. You will find an office for alumni and emails with the alumni and everything. But when you see what is the mechanism of communicating with them, you don't find any mechanism. And when you meet the alumni, they don't know about the activities done by the program or the workshops or whatever. Then we have the teaching staff. The teaching staff, standard, what we find is that limited number of publication of faculty members. It we also encountered in many programs. And of course, the number of publication or the production of research should be compared with the external benchmark. Insufficient training of faculty members on academic matters related to integrity as a student. No needs assessment for planning faculty development activities. You will find faculty development activities is done by the program, but based on their own opinion. You should have a needs assessment for the faculty member to ask them to tell you what sort of training they need. And then accordingly, you will arrange your faculty development program. Also, no monitoring of the efficiency of the faculty development activities. After you conduct faculty development activities, you have to assess the efficiency of these faculty development activities. What we find is sometimes comments like this. Lack of faculty members in some specialties, and this of course found in some programs, and they use some specialists which are not in the domain. Like for example, if they in the surgery, they ask them to give lectures in the field of cardiac surgery and so on. So there is also this comment in many places. This is my last slide, the standard of equipment and facilities. No policies and procedures that ensure the adequacy and appropriateness of the learning resources. You have learning resources, but how do you ensure that they are adequate and appropriate? You should have a policy and should have procedure for this, and this should be disseminated to all places shared in the decision about this adequacy and appropriateness. The second is the insufficient number of technicians for the operation and preparation of laboratories. In some programs, we find that they have no technician and they use the teaching assistant in doing that. Of course, the teaching assistant have another job description and they don't and shouldn't prepare the labs instead of the technician. The last one is that no evaluation of the effectiveness of the learning resources, facilities and equipment. There should be periodical evaluation of the effectiveness of the learning resources, facilities and equipment. Sometimes you find some programs has a high fidelity mannequins, and then when you look for how the student use it, they find that the student will use it once per year, something like this. So the utilization is not accurate. So you have to evaluate the effectiveness each now and then to be sure that they are used and are effective and they have impact on the performance of the student. Thank you very much for listening. I'm trying to be fast as much as possible to allow Nina to complete her work after the exercise. So, okay, are you following me?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Somaya. And let me just take the chance to welcome Dr. Gulen. She's here with us. Prof. Abdul Halim.
Yes.
Yes, she joined us.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Golin, for attending our workshop. I think it's a great opportunity. And also we have others to thank, Dr. Mona Sadoun and Dr. Soha, and all our colleagues actually who are joining us. I hope this workshop will benefit everyone of us. So you can continue, Prof. Somaya.
Yeah, hi, Golan. I worked with you many times ago. Okay, so we will have now a small exercise to share with each other. Just a minute. Okay, so this exercise, as you see, I want you to read the paragraph and try to think about the type of evidence that the program should submit to support the claim being made in each paragraph. So as you know, when we write the self-study report, as Nina said, we put for every item and evidence to show that this is something accurate and appropriate, and then the reviewers will be sure that you actually have this practice. So this is the first thing. Please read, take your time and read, and tell me what are the evidence you need for this paragraph to put. This is a report without any evidence. Yeah, quality assurance people. Yeah, anyone would like to answer?
May I comment? Yes, yes.
Yes,
Professor.
please. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
We have Dr. Rima and Prof. Square are raising hands.
Yeah, Dogima, please go ahead. You started.
No, we can't hear you.
No, you can't hear you. I'll go to Professor Squira.
Okay.
Okay.
Professor Square.
Hi. Okay, my take is, okay, it is just a flash on what I saw on the screen. I would go for, first of all, a documentary analysis, looking at the institutional mission statement, and that would be some sort of a documentary analysis. Perhaps we will also require needs analysis report, a systematic needs analysis report.
Yes.
And also we need to perhaps carry out a market survey, either from stakeholders like employers, and we have to also look for evidence for some sort of an external validation in terms of benchmarking, similar programs if they're offered elsewhere. And well, I did not go to pedagogy and intended learning outcomes and assessment, but perhaps I think one has to do a triangulation of multiple evidences that you collect in order to reach, to give a balanced opinion in terms of where you stand. Okay. We can go into the detail about ILOs and pedagogy and curriculum and assessment.
Yeah, why you look for the ILOs and those things? Why?
Well,
because
I think that
the self-study report this is just one practice or just one indicator. So in this area, as a college, as a program, what evidence you should add here for the reviewers? So you can put everything. So you said market needs analysis, and this is okay, of course. So we'll ask any other one to tell us. Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Professor Squera. Any other who can tell us what else can we put here as an evidence?
Professor Somaya, may I interrupt? I also heard Professor Sakara mention the institutional mission, which I think is very right, because of course, to tell if the mission of the program is appropriate, it has to be consistent with the mission of the college and the institution. So yes, you are right in that also. So that was another evidence.
And also there should be, an external benchmark.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay? Because that subsumes your pedagogy, ILO, and assessment.
Yes,
of course, benchmark is important. What others? As you see,
especially if you're benchmarking against professional standards also, that helps a lot.
And
no, of course, that goes without saying. Otherwise, benchmarking is inappropriate if you do not select an appropriate external benchmark.
Yes. No, but I mean sometimes, because some programs will benchmark against similar programs, right? And that is fine. But even what makes your position stronger if you have that benchmarking against your professional standards.
No, rather I would say it should be a gold standard, because you can compare it with another sloppy, external benchmark and say that we are comparable. That means nothing, actually.
Yes.
Okay, so they ask here survey of offer program by international region and local institutes, guidelines, recommendations set by societies and relevant professional bodies. What we wanted to see. Yeah, any other comments?
Sir Somaya, I think this statement kind of needs multiple matrices to show actually the kind of alignment of all these goals to whatever benchmarks we are using, whether local or international. Plus, for sure, the alignment between our missions or our practices with the whole university mission and vision.
Okay. Thank you.
Professor Yahya, you're very right, because this is not just like one expectation. This is a whole indicator in a standard. So it will have many expectations underneath it. And this is why, we chose it on purpose, because there are so many things that go into this. And you're right to say that there will be multiple pieces of evidence here.
Yeah, that's right. So what do you think about, yes.
I think Prof Afif is raising hand. So
yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. This statement for me is very broad statement.
Yes.
It looks to me as if I am a kind of external auditor or accreditation body. This is kind of like if it is cut and paste from a document, from a standard document. I will not take this as granted unless I see evidence for every piece of statement within, including
the. I ask you about the evidence which
I'm going to tell you. Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
All these guidelines, where are they? I need to see the guidelines and recommendations.
Yes.
I need to see the corrective action plans that followed your evaluation and the establishment of preliminary program for updates. This is a CAPA plan. I need to see the situation analysis, the benchmarking activity, and the related corrective action plans, and the proof that this was done with all stakeholders. Any kind of consensus meetings or reports.
So you said you still do the stakeholder. What you want to see about stakeholder, please let me know.
Well, I need to see kind of proof of consensus.
Yes.
Meeting and PV and written kind of minutes. It has to be minuted, and it has to be the evidence has to be there in the file of the program. Thank you.
So, is anything else you want to see here? You told us most of the evidence needed. Is there any others?
The proof of all these surveys of the comparison with other programs and international and regional and local institutes. We need to see the evidence that these surveys took place indeed, and they are not just a statement without any real activities that took place.
Okay, great, thank you.
Professor Somaya.
Yes.
رؤوف معك.
اهلا يا رؤوف.
ازاي؟ يعني my question is for the accreditation, how many documents?
Just a minute, رؤوف, معلش. We will have يعني time for the questions at the end because this exercise want to finish it and then we'll move to the question. Thank you. This
Professor Somaya, can I just say something very important here, which was not mentioned as evidence? Always, I think, as a tip for you, your starting point should be with what policies apply. So basically, when you're talking about the academic planning framework of a program, you're talking about like when it first started, when it was going to be offered. So basically, usually the university will have a policy for introducing new programs, right? And this policy will talk about things like when we want to introduce a new program, what are the kinds of activities we need to do? So we need to, let's say, do a labor market needs analysis. Maybe we need to, do benchmarking, et cetera, So one of the main evidences that you should be having here is this policy for, introducing and reviewing academic programs. That is in evidence. Also, they mention here, for example, assessment. So you need to have a policy on assessment. They mention here.
I think still one paragraph, Nina, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I just added this paragraph, so we'll find the rest of what you said.
Okay.
So, okay. Please read the second paragraph and tell me what evidence we should add here.
Prof Square is raising hand. Prof,
okay, just one generic comment. Okay, it is in a lighter vein. I think many a time, I think the standards or indicators are written in a more confusing way rather than to make lesser mortals, life easier. For example, fitness for purpose is a definition of quality, which most people generally, as a generic definition of quality, they agree. So instead of putting something fancy, fitness for purpose, I think if it is written as quality in terms of mission, blah, 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 life is easier for everybody. Now, this is very often most of the commissions they do.
Okay. So
as if professionals.
Like the standards of the accrediting body. We'll talk.
This is exactly what I'm telling. Quality of the accreditation commissions. Okay. Because why it is a serious issue, because those who are undertaking at an institutional level or at a program level, they are not trained professionals, specialists in accreditation. Okay, they may be anatomists or pathologists or surgeons who are trying to pitch into this task. And that is where my general appeal is, commission should carefully draft what they are asking, something that is more easily understandable. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Professor Suker, and I think this is where the role of the quality assurance people in the college comes in. They are supposed to be like the, mediators between the accrediting bodies and the rest of the professionals in the college. And that's why, I mentioned from the start that everybody needs to be trained and educated. And so the quality people, yes, will understand, but it's their job also to transfer their understanding to others. So yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, on that front, I think, in my opinion, it is very inappropriate if somebody is involved from a commission. They should not be involved in terms of internal training for the institution which they are undertaking.
No.
Because then there is a conflict of interest.
Of course.
Because many a time the commissions conveniently offer their services.
She is talking about the quality assurance people in the
inside the university, in the program, in the college.
Okay.
Not the accrediting body. No.
Okay. No, that's what I want to make sure. Yes. That there should be no conflict of interest.
Yes, of course. That's right. We agree about this. Okay, the second paragraph, please, if you find any evidence here.
I think this is where I think an organizational chart will be helpful, which gives an overview for the commission, how the university or an institution's organizational structure, it is aligned in terms of decision-making, communication channels. And this is very important, particularly when it is a new program. And in terms of approving the course credit and those sort of things, I think, if I can take a very broad sweep, maybe something like Board of Trustees, University Council, College Council, all the way downstream.
So you want to see the approvals of these entities, that's right?
Exactly, and there should be an organizational chart in the public domain.
Yeah, to see the responsibilities of the other job description of the other place. Any other comment, please?
I think Professor Archana has her hand up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I think I agree with the Professor Kera. All these meetings, when they say it is approved, it should be minuted, and all those minutes of meetings should be kept as evidence.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
That's right.
And Professor Siraj is also raising his hand.
Yeah, please.
For information.
We have also Professor Muhammad Hani.
Yes, Muhammad. Go ahead, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. Yes, I think also we need the terms of reference of all the mentioned committees and councils.
Yes, right.
It needs to be very clear the role of each committee or body. And the one modern thing is the student representation in the relevant committees.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Any other comment or
Professor Siraj?
Siraj, yeah. Yeah. Open the mic, please.
I think we have Dr. Shiraz.
Shiraz, okay.
Shiraz.
Okay.
Would you like to comment, Dr. Shiraz?
Yes, my comment is that Dr. Nina talked in general about accreditation, and Dr. Somaya, you talked more so about the higher medical education. But surprisingly, no one mentioned about the World Federation of Medical Education and its standards. Actually, World Federation of Medical Education had done a lot of work for undergraduate medical education, and since 2014, it is also now working for postgraduate or higher medical education. So it was surprising that no mention has been made.
Yeah, I can respond to you. The World Federation of Medical Education is a recognizing body, so it is not an accrediting body. So each program should be accredited by a national accrediting body. But the World Federation of Medical Education is recognized the authority of accreditation or the accrediting body itself. So for example, the World Federation recognized our National Authority of Quality Assurance in Egypt and recognized the quality assurance in Saudi Arabia, and inshallah it will do in Bahrain. So we are not mentioning World Federation now because we are not talking about the recognition of the accrediting bodies. We are talking about the accreditation of the programs.
Yes.
Yes, Prof. Square also would like to add something.
Just as a follow-on question, I think, what about those countries where there is no recognized accreditation commission, which is, when I say, I'm specifically referring to WFME. And that obviously, that means they have to go in search of alternatives, which is other than their national. Now, this is a stark reality in many of the countries in this region. Now, is there any sort of a guidance? How do you then narrow down your search for identifying an appropriate commission for accreditation? I'm referring to MD program.
Nina, would you like to add something here?
I'm not sure if I got the question, if I understood it correctly.
He's talking about the World Federation. And again, I am emphasizing that the World Federation cannot accredit any programs. They accredit accrediting bodies. They recognize accrediting bodies. The places where they don't have accrediting bodies, some countries they don't have, they seek some international accrediting bodies, and but this it will be a sort of external evaluation, not a real accreditation. Sometimes the liaison committee of USA go to some programs and accredit them, but this will still as a sort of recognition and not accreditation because it is not from the national authority of the country.
Dr. Natalie,
can I comment?
yes.
Yes.
Yes, hello. My name is Nathalie Zananiri. I just want to clarify something about the WFME, the World Federation for Medical Education. Yes, it is a body that recognizes accrediting agencies. And so this is why many countries who do not have a national accreditor in their countries, they seek agencies that are recognized by the WFME, and they follow the standards, which are international standards for medical education that they were set by the WFME. And unfortunately, you know, you all heard about the ECFMD announcement, is that no student can go and train in the States if they were not you know, graduated from an agency that is recognized by the WFME. So I just wanted to clarify this point.
Yeah, this is well known, and all the students are now looking for accredited programs to share with the medical students to be able to take the ECFMG.
Yes, Dr. Yahya, would you like to add?
So I think this is a follow-up of Professor Sequeira's question, which I think it's kind of remains unanswered. For example, in Bahrain so far, there is no national accrediting body for the medical schools.
It's coming. It's on the way, Dr. Yahya.
Yeah, inshallah.
We're in process now. We're waiting.
But the question, I think, what Professor Sequeira meant was there is like a more of a maybe an advice on how to pick or narrow our selection for some accrediting bodies. For example, the NCAA now is kind of accredited. Was that more, reasonable or sensible rather than going to more international accrediting agencies like the QAA or the ACC?
Now you have to wait for Bahrain to be accredited, to be recognized by.
I think I'll get Dr. Yahya's question. Dr. Yahya, I think it will all depend on basically the needs and the goals of your institution. So, for example, I will tell you there are some institutions, let's say in Bahrain, who are, let's say, they're all accredited here by the HEC. They've been quality assured by the BQA, and they've passed our, quality assurance requirements. But for example, to them, they are shooting for also, let's say, international accreditation. So the question comes in, like, why did they choose international accreditation, let's say, to go to an accrediting body in the States rather than in the UK or in Europe, for instance? Well, it depends. Sometimes it depends on the nature of the institution, what kind of institution they are. Sometimes it depends on, what their goals are or what their vision is for this institution. So really, there isn't a simple answer. But, as Dr. Sequeira was saying, if you are, let's say, an institution operating in a country where there is no, let's say, accrediting body at all, okay, then your only solution will be, of course, to look outside of that country, right? But, where do you look? Nobody can come and tell you, well, it's better to go look in the States rather than in Europe or the opposite. It depends on what your needs are and what your vision is for your institution and for your programs. And there isn't really a simple answer. But for instance, hopefully now in Bahrain, when it comes to medical education, we are in the process, inshallah, hopefully, that also the BQA will be recognized by the WFME. We have started the process. We are almost done with it. And I heard the name Dr. Munal Saadoun with us. I want to say hello to her, and she will know why. So basically, inshallah, we hope that this will happen. Now, if, let's say, God forbid, BQA doesn't get it, then you as the AGU will have to basically decide on whether you want to go with the NCAA or go with another, let's say, accrediting agency that has been recognized by WFME. Maybe you would go to NCAA because, from the start, I think your association with them has been very strong. But that will depend on your needs and on the decision made by your institution. Really.
Okay, we'll give Prof. Somaya. If you continue, Prof. Somaya, I think this issue we can.
Okay, for the time.
There is no need to go further.
I have much time, so I will move to I will leave this and go to this one because we don't have more time. So please look at this also. You sometimes see reports like this. It is not clear, big, very long paragraphs. You will encounter something like this. So this is a real, a real report from one college.
Yeah, so what are some pieces of evidence here? I think maybe they forgot the question, our question.
Yeah. Yeah.
For this one.
The highest authority in the department is it's a council, therefore decision making is shared responsibility rather than a one-man show, as Nina said. So what do you think to be sure of this statement?
There is a hand, I think Natalie is hand, Dr. Natalie.
Yes, Dr. Natalie.
Yes, hello again. Well, although it's not clear what is asked here, but when I see management of the program, I would look at the bylaws, the different committees, you know, in the bylaws, the curriculum committee, the quality assurance, what is their roles. I would look at minutes as well. But I just want to check that the red one is the standard and what is written in...
Yeah, this is the indicator. This is the indicator.
Indicator, and what is written in black is the one that was...
Written by the program.
By the,
Okay, by the medical school, you mean,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so we have, so when we read this, we have to read the red one, right?
Yes.
Not to be affected. So yes, how is it managed, the program? The first part, I would look about, you know, maybe the organizational chart, the bylaws, the roles. I mean, bylaws, sometimes they call it in the Gulf the terms of reference, but I'm using the bylaws.
How you will be sure that the decisions is shared responsibility?
Minutes. Yes, I would look at minutes, okay, especially under the quality assurance and continuous improvement, their minutes, to show what actions were taken, the follow-up, that they've closed the loop. So this is what mainly, and of course, the content of the minutes should, on what basis the quality assurance and the continuous improvement they were collected. I would look at, you know, the results of assessment, about assessment results, feedback from students, different documents, but they should all be, you know, analyzed and incorporated in the quality assurance and continuous improvement minutes.
Of course, regarding the department has adopted an open door policy. I think this is will be difficult to see evidence.
I think that,
so how do you ensure this?
An open door policy, of course, they can, for the students, you mean, right?
Yes.
The students, they can, you know, there should be, you know, emails, etc., from the management asking students, you know, that they come, they can complain, they can give their feedback other than the survey, the structured one, right? The standard that is done on survey and questionnaires at the end of the course or the module. So yes, that's an evidence. And I think the greatest evidence is when the accreditors are going to come and validate and check with the students.
Yeah, and here is an open door policy. So this policy should be written
somewhere. Okay? Exactly.
Okay. So
you have Dr. Sulaima.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, I have questions more than answers. The terms that is in the box in red color, is this a real standard or this was just made up for this workshop?
No, it's a real indicator.
A real indicator.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, I would think this is really not clear. I would like someone to define the term giving confidence. What is that? Unless it does have annotations that explain to institution what it means. Because if it's written this way, it will, you know, it is left for people to write what they think is the meaning of giving confidence.
Basically, Dr. Sulaiman, it relates to the issue of trust that I talked about. So basically, if, let's say, these arrangements are in place, they are going to help in raising the quality of the program, and this will basically help in building trust of the stakeholders, trust in the program. They can trust that it is, you know, at certain standards and of certain quality. So this is what it means, and straightforward, giving confidence in the quality of the program, in other words.
Dr. Hani Atwal, you would like to add something?
That the policy is known to everyone through posters in meeting and so on. So how do you ensure this part? What are the evidence, or what is the evidence you will ask for?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for this question. I think that among the important evidence.
Hani is my student, and he is the first professor in medical education in Egypt and in the Middle East. So I congratulate you, Hani, because he is just become a professor recently.
Thank you, Professor Somaya. So among the most important evidences to indicate the open door policy is that we look at the representation of the students in the different committees, and not only just the representation, but the feedback or the transparency of feedback taken from the students, and most importantly, what we are doing with this feedback. And this is very important for the improvement of the course. In addition to that, we need to look at the impact of the course through the direct and indirect assessment. The direct assessment, I mean the results of the students in the course, and the impact of the course on the students and gaining the knowledge, skills, and the competencies of through this course, and also the indirect assessment through the feedback, as I said, from the students and also from the faculty who participated in delivery of the course.
Thank you, Hani. I think
Professor Somaya, just to note the time, we're 10 minutes late. So
finish at this
for the exercises.
I have many slides, but this we will stop share because Nina should present the last part.
And we want to leave some time for their questions also.
For the questions.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and continue. Let me just check the slides where I stopped, and then I'll start sharing. Okay, yes. I'm just going to just jump maybe to this slide, which is really important. And let me just go and, it took me back here. Okay. Anyway, so we were talking about the success factors for like accreditation visits and accreditation exercises. I talked about all of these, and so I'm not going to mention them again because it will be too much repetition. I'm just going to jump to like, how do you prepare the self-evaluation report? And in the beginning, what you need to do is you need to form like a team, as we have been saying, Professor Somaya and I, and that team should be responsible for like dividing up the work and distributing the duties and all of this. Everyone should be contributing, and then you need like people who are collecting the different parts and conducting the self-evaluation. And in the end, you need to come up with your self-evaluation report. Now, one tip it is always helpful to have as an index or for your self-evaluation report, like a whole list of the evidence that you refer to in the self-evaluation report. And in a minute, I will show you what the list will look like. But I just want to talk about what we use here at the BQA. We use really the ADRI approach whenever we are training universities on how to write paragraphs in the self-evaluation report. We tell them to try to follow for every practice the ADRI approach, which is an acronym standing for Approach, Deployment, Results, and Improvement. So for example, let's suppose you want to talk about the admission policy, okay? So, and you want to explain like what is your admission policy? policy. So you start with the approach describing that, this program has an admission policy and there are specific criteria which are so and so that the students should be coming in, let's say, with a high school cumulative average of blah, 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 TOEFL, etc. So you're right to describe all of this. This will be your A, which is the approach. Now, the next part is the deployment. So you need to talk about how you are actually implementing this admission policy. So you can talk about things like how you ensure that it is being implemented fairly, how it is being implemented, let's say there's transparency, what rights the students have, if they have a right to appeal the admission decision or not. If yes, you put, of course, evidence of some appeals, etc., etc. Okay, and then you will put data here about, let's say, in the last, for example, 3 years, how many students were admitted into the program, how many students appealed the admission decision, etc. Now, that all describes your implementation. Then after this, you need to talk about the results, meaning like, okay, by implementing this admission policy, what kinds of students are entering into this program? Are the type of students of the quality that we want? Are they meeting the expectations or not? So here, for example, you can go and look at your cohort analysis that you have done in the last, let's say, 3 years. And if your cohort analysis show a good, let's say, progression rate, a good graduation rate, not too many students are dropping out, you have a good retention rate, that will tell you that, well, okay, our admission policy is working, right? So the results will say that. And sometimes maybe if you notice that you do not have a high retention rate, okay, and you have done something about it, like you've done a formal study to study why students are leaving, why they are dropping out, etc. So that shows that you have done the study. That was a way that you are trying to improve yourself, to understand better why students are not staying in the program, and to tell whether do we really need to work on our admission policy and revise it in some way, change our criteria in some way or not. So in every paragraph, really, you're writing, even your thinking should be programmed in this way, that when I am writing about any practice, I start describing what we have. Do not say what you are going to have or what you should have. The accreditation teams are not interested in what's going to happen in the future or what you want to do. They want the facts, what is happening now. So describe what you have, talk about the implementation, talk about how you know whether the implementation is working or not, okay, how you are reviewing, evaluating what kinds of results you're getting, and if you're identifying any areas of improvement, what are you doing about it to improve? So in every paragraph, if you follow this ADRI approach in your writing style throughout your self-evaluation report, and you're covering all of the standards of the accrediting body, then you are going to be in a very safe place in terms of the quality of your self-evaluation report. Just some tips on the evidence. We said every claim needs to have at least one piece of evidence. As Dr. Somaya said, make sure that the evidence is relevant to the claim. Another thing that is really important, try to avoid using, let's say, pictures or scans. Try as much as possible when you're giving documents as evidence that they are searchable documents, searchable PDF or Word documents. It's very good if you put the evidence in the paragraph. It would be great if you can hyperlink it, meaning that the accrediting panel, when they are reading, they can click on the evidence, automatically it will take them to the document that is the piece of evidence. That would be ideal if you can do that. If you have an evidence that is a large document, try to always refer to the page number. Make the lives of the accreditation team easier, because trust me, the more you make their life easier, the more positive they will be when they come and visit you. If you make their life harder, they will not be coming with a very positive mind. If you have any evidence that is in Arabic and you know your accrediting team does not read Arabic, try to always provide like a summary in English to help them understand like what this piece of evidence is about. I'm just going to skip some slides. Usually the self-evaluation reports, I got this from the BQA. This is what a self-evaluation report with evidence. Dr. Somaya showed you paragraphs without evidence. I'm showing you one with evidence. This is what it looks like. So you have a claim in the left-hand column, and then right after the claim, you have the codes of the evidence between parentheses, right? It's very, very good if next to this, you put a column on the right, which explicitly mentions, well, what is this evidence? What is SM 2.4a? What is SM 2.4b, and etc. So usually the good self-evaluation reports we get are like this, in this format. So that's just a tip to help you. Some good practices: give every piece of evidence a single code. Yani just like you do not name your child more than one name. Yes, there are nicknames, but that is not allowed here. Every piece of evidence should be given one code, and it should have that code regardless of where you are using that piece of evidence. So for example, the let's say curriculum committee minutes, you could use that evidence in many different places and many different standards. Do not change its code every time you are using it in another standard. Stick to one code, because then it becomes very, very confusing when they are writing their report. Okay, they will not know now, is it this or that code? This is why you need to stick to one code only. Always, if you are providing any kind of copies, let's say surveys, evaluation forms, okay, policies, make sure that they are updated. And the surveys and the evaluation forms should be recent from the last 3 years, not further, back, because those will not really count. Make sure you have an evidence list, as I said, in the appendix, because that will help. And also, if you're giving samples, let's say it's a graduate studies program, thesis, try to at least put 3 samples and not less than 3 samples. If you can put more, then better, okay? Because you are proving strongly your claim. Another thing, handbook, student handbook, faculty handbook, make sure they are recent. Try to minimize evidence that you consider as confidential or that should be seen only on site. The problem with some academic programs is everything for them is confidential. They are afraid to share anything with the accrediting team. This is not good, because the team are coming and they don't really have a clear picture of your program when you're keeping everything for them to see on site. On site, they don't have much time. So if they're going to look at things, they're going to look very, very quickly, and that is not in your interest. Better to provide them with some things from the start. Course files, expect that you can submit upfront samples of course files, but also expect that they will require to see almost all the course files when they are there on site. So have your course files ready for them, because they can ask for any course file while they are on site. Things not to do, try not to overdo it with the subcoding. Don't go on forever with the numbering, SM 1.1.2, 3.4.5. No, limit, start a new number or code instead of going on forever. Never submit empty templates. If you are doing surveys, don't give the survey form empty as evidence, because it does not prove implementation. What you need to always give as evidence are filled surveys. Okay, if you are afraid, let's say it's an evaluation form of a faculty member, for confidentiality reasons, what you can do is go cross out their names. It can be anonymous, that is fine, but never give empty templates. So that will not be accepted. It will not mean anything. And I think I'm done with this part. This is what your list of evidence could look like that you can put in the appendix. So it's made up of 3 columns. It would be ideal if you organize things per standard. So for standard 3, for example, these are the evidence that we refer to in the SER, the self-evaluation report. So you put the code of the evidence, the title of the evidence, and then if you have any remarks, you can put it here, okay, like available on site, or for example, it's on this page in this document, any comment you want to make the life of the reviewers easier. When you submit the evidence, make sure it's very well organized. Organize your evidence per standards in folders, just like this. So standard 1 has one folder, standard 2, etc., etc. Now, within the standards, let's say standard 2, this is what your evidence will look like. So when you are saving your files, try to give them the code and also write a little bit like the small description of what this evidence is. Do not just write the codes on their own, because it makes the searching much more difficult for the team. I'm going to skip this because I already talked about the culture. I'm just going to go very quickly talk about the site visit. In the site visit, of course, the main purpose of it, they are coming to check if what you wrote in your self-evaluation report is true or not true. Also, they are coming to understand better your program, find out more things about it that you did not write about. And also they are coming to ask you sometimes for more evidence than what you had submitted. We know in the typical visit, they may give you just an introduction of the review, like what they're going to be doing. They will tour your campus, your facilities, they will interview everyone, and they will have sometimes some ad hoc interviews, as I mentioned, and they will have time on their own to meet as a team. Of course, what makes your site visit successful? If you are very well prepared, okay, logistically, in terms of evidence, in terms of the people who are going to be interviewed, everyone is informed, etc. If there is good coordination between the accrediting body and the person in the program, who we call the contact person, time management is very important. In the interviews, you have to be brief, you have to be to the point. You cannot sit and discuss things, you cannot argue with the team. They are not there for a debate, they're not interested. They have a question, you answer to the point, because they don't have much time. The clarity of the outcomes, if you are clear on why they're asking you certain questions or what they're looking for, if you really know what you had written in the self-evaluation report, then the clarity of the outcomes will be ensured. The problem is many of the faculty will come to the interview, they have never seen the self-evaluation report. Everyone should read the self-evaluation report before the accreditation visit, okay, or it's going to be a big problem. Sometimes there will be things mentioned in the self-evaluation report that the faculty do, and then during the interview of the faculty, almost none of them have heard of it before. That does not look good. Okay, it doesn't look good at all. So everyone should read the self-evaluation report before the visit if they are not contributing to it, which I mean should be the case. Now, the quality of information you give is very important. The clearer, the better. The more detailed and specific information you give in your responses, the better. And the quality of the dialogue, it is a dialogue. It's more of a peer review. Don't take them as inspectors who are coming to really, make you fail, where you have to be defensive. Do not be defensive. They are there to help you help yourselves. Okay. Now, another important thing is speak clearly. Be direct, do not interrupt during the interviews. If a colleague is speaking, wait for your turn. And also usually no accrediting agency will allow you to record what is happening or to film or even to take notes. So don't take your notebook with you, because many will not appreciate it. This I already said. Another thing you have to understand, Professor Sukera mentioned the conflict of interest, and he is right. So please do not share your personal information or try to be friendly with the panel or the team. Do not try to offer them consultancy work. Do not give them business cards. Do not give them gifts, because always they are not allowed to receive any of these things. So they are going to tell you no, and then you will feel rejected. So that is not really a very nice feeling. And I think that is it for me. I try to finish as quickly as possible on time. You still have your KWL. You can fill this later on. If there's anything new, inshallah, that you learned today, even a small tip, you can go and write it in the last column. But I don't know, our time officially is up, but I'm not sure if there are any questions or answers. Time for that. I'm willing to stay behind if AGU is willing to stay behind.
Just thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nina. Just one request, please. If you can look into the chat section and fill the evaluation form for us, for all participants.
I think we will
It would be
allow
much
for some
appreciated.
question and answer if they willing to
Yeah, if
stay.
you allow us 5 minutes for
Yes.
questions and
Yes,
answers.
Yes, we have no
I think
problem.
we thank you all for this really very informative webinar. I think I have one question for you, Prof. Somaya, regarding after you finish the self-study report, you mentioned that it's obligatory to send it for 2 external reviewers to give their feedback.
No, you can just 1 independent. Sometimes they are 2, sometimes it's 1.
1 or 2, but it's not.
Yeah.
It has to be sent to.
And it's always it will be better to come and see make a site visit also. It is better, but not always.
Okay, so you can send.
If you can, it will be better to revise and give you comments. This is the first draft of the self-study report, and then you can modify according to the independent reviewer comments. I just want to add one thing regarding the World Federation. Most of the countries have only general accrediting bodies, not for the medical education especially.
Yes.
So very few countries have, like USA or so. So you have, this is the way force World Federation is recognizing those accrediting bodies to be able to accredit their medical schools. So this only
Professor Somaya, can I just give a tip to Professor Abdul Halim? Professor Somaya rightly said, once you get the report back from the external reviewer, you are supposed to take their comments into consideration. And we advise you, I think she will also reinforce this, we advise you that in your report, in your self-evaluation report, when you are doing the revisions based on the comments, to refer to the external reviewer. Say that based on the external reviewer's comments, we went and we changed this bylaw, or we went and we changed this, for example, policy, revised it. It's good to mention to show that you've done your homework, you've done your work of taking into consideration the external reviewer's comments into consideration.
Yeah, you are right, because the reviewer is looking for the reviewer comment and see
exactly
if you or not.
Exactly.
Yes, thanks. Really appreciate it.
There are more questions. We see many hands up.
Yes, okay. Prof. Square, Dr. Yahya, and Dr. Archana.
Sarah, you can organize.
Let's start with Professor Square, as he's like the godfather of accreditation here at AGU.
Yes.
You need to unmute, Professor Square.
Yeah.
Still muted.
Yeah, open the mic, please. Open your mic. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, both of you. I think that was very, very informative. And, it has been very helpful for us to, reflect on what we have been doing. I wish we had this opportunity a little bit ahead of time. Thank you very much again. One quick question. Do you need to declare who was your independent reviewer to the commission?
Yes, no problem at all.
No. Question is not no problem. Is it mandatory to declare?
Yeah. You submit the report with the name of the independent reviewer.
And even sometimes the CV, Doctora.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. In one accreditation visit, we saw that the independent reviewer was one of the college council, and the reviewer's comment was, this is a conflict of interest. So you have to seek someone who are away from
No, then it is not independent at all. Forget about it. Okay. Yes. Now, my question is, the only reason why it is important to declare that is, suppose the commission is approaching, okay, that individual as one of the side to is a conflict, because this person whom you claim to be an independent reviewer had already provided in its advisory capacity on the report to that institution. That's the only reason why it is important to declare, because most of the commissions do not ask this information at all. First of all, whether you have consulted somebody and who that person is and what changes you have made. These are optional things, at least with 1 or 2 protocols that I am familiar with.
No, what I know is that you have to declare the independent name, and the report is revised by the reviewer to see if you already implemented this or not.
Can I say something also, Professor Sukera? It's an experience that I went through. One time I was chairing an accreditation panel, and I noticed that there were a lot of issues with the program, and they had said that they had an external reviewer, and I'm like, how on earth did the external reviewer not catch, you know, such obvious like errors and mistakes, right? So then I was curious, like, who is this external reviewer? I really wanted to check their CV and know, because maybe the problem could have been that the program did not choose wisely. Right? They did not choose somebody in the field, or somebody, sometimes they go and they choose someone who is close to the field, and then they end up having a lot of problems, right? And so this is why I think it's even important, if you can put their CV, why not? If you are sure that you have a strong external reviewer, put it, prove yourself, show off, you know, you are allowed to show off as long as you are doing it in an honest way. It's okay. It's marketing in a way.
No, it is true. I agree.
Yeah.
But in that case, isn't the commission is outsourcing their task through an independent reviewer?
No.
To make their life easier. No, I'm just, arguing.
Yes.
Are they not acting as just a forwarding agency?
No, the external reviewer here is acting as a mechanism in place that the program has to prove that they are serious about improving their quality. Okay. So this is how they look at it. This is how they look at it.
So in other words, you have to look for a good brand ambassador.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, now, if Dr. Yahya and Dr. Archana may allow me to give the virtual floor to Dr. Muna.
Stop, let me ask.
Yes.
Doctor, if we can just give some time for people outside AGU first, because Dr. Muna.
Don't worry, Dr. Yahya, we are with you. Don't worry, we are with you. We will not go. We're here.
I think Dr. Muna Sadoun would like to.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Muna, can you hear me? Because she wanted to add up, but okay, I think she lowered her hand. She left.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Yahya, the floor is yours now.
He left.
Okay.
Did he leave?
زعلنا.
No, he's here, but his camera is off and he's muted.
Okay, Dr. Archana, you can.
Yes, I just wanted to request all the participants to kindly fill the link for our own quality assurance. Please give us your valuable feedback about this workshop and how it benefited you. We have shared the link in the chat box, so kindly I request all of you to give your feedback. Thank you.
I think Dr. Munaz is still here, but there is a problem with the mic. Okay.
If anyone would like to ask,
any other questions? Yeah.
Fix her mic. Natalia.
Yes, thank you very much for the workshop. Really, it was very good. I just want to, ask you, how do you prepare, after you write the self-evaluation report, after you write the self-study, how do you prepare your faculty, your students, to the site visit? Can you give us some advice and tips? Thank you.
Shall I take this, Professor Somaya?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Although I'm on the other side, but it's okay. So basically, as I said, Dr. Natalie, I said that first of all, you need to announce the visit, right? And everyone should know about it. You need to have activities related to it. You need to explain to everyone what accreditation means, why is it important, what benefits does it carry even for the students. Students, when they really understand what the benefit of such an exercise is for them and for their future, they will be more willing, to take it seriously. And I think what you need to do is just explain who's coming, what they're doing, what their role is going to be, what kinds of questions that they may ask them. And so, and just tell them to be honest. And I think, it's very, very a big mistake that programs do, where basically, as we say in Arabic, حفظ الطلبة. يعني they make them memorize certain answers that they want them to say to the accreditation team. Because we can sense, as accreditation teams, we really can sense when the students are being honest and when they have been, given something to memorize. So avoid doing that. It's not in your interest. It's good sometimes to hear feedback from the students about their program, like what things they would like to see changed in their program. Even better, what you need to be doing is you need to be highlighting for the students in an ongoing process all the suggestions that they have given you and the changes that you have made in response. This is one question as accreditation teams we always ask all stakeholders, like, does the program listen to you? Well, how do you know that they listen to you? Give us examples. So if you do not inform your students that these surveys that you conduct, you're taking them into consideration, that you said that you needed, for example, us to strengthen the internet, and we did that. You needed more parking spaces, and we did that. You have to tell them what you are doing so that they will know that whatever changes are really in response to their feedback and not for something else. Like sometimes you go and you change a textbook in a course, right? Now, the students who had given you this feedback, they graduated from the course and they moved on. The new students know you've changed the textbook, but they have no clue that this was changed on the basis of the feedback of the previous students. You need to inform them. So you need to have like some kind of newsletter on your website. Sometimes in some universities, they put up an electronic, announcements where they say, you said we did, students told us they needed new so-and-so, we did this, we got this, this is what we did in response. It's important because this is the most important thing that the accreditation team will be after, okay, to see if you actually listen to the needs of your students or not.
Yeah,
and always
thank you.
Yeah. To add something from my experience as a leader for the accreditation visit 3 times in my college, we did several meetings with faculty members and the students, and of course the quality assurance unit from the beginning or before the start of the accreditation process, they always conduct meeting with the student every now and then to inform them about the updates and get their feedback. So when you come to the accreditation visit, you have everything in place, but you have to remind them. And also it's important to make just a handout to distribute to them to know the important thing about the standard and everything. Yeah. Any other question?
Dr. Golan is here with us, as many of you may know, from the WHO. But let me just unmute her. Yes. Yes, Dr. Golan.
Oh, yes.
Yes, welcome.
Sorry.
We hear you.
Oh.
How are you?
Okay.
So you came to Ismailia with Dr. Johar Wajid. Do you remember? And I
yes, Doctor. Let me just put on my camera.
Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon and hello all, and good to see you, Dr. Somaya, and all colleagues. It was great to join you. I unfortunately missed the beginning because I was confused with the time difference between Bahrain and Cairo.
Just 1 hour. I am here in Cairo like you.
Yes, I missed, but I have been following the second part of the workshop, and I'm glad to collaborate. I really appreciate our collaborating center taking these issues forward and creating this platform for discussion. And I think there has been quite interesting discussions and quite inspiring discussions. Hopefully, we will follow up on this and we will take it forward all together in the region, all the colleagues who are interested and involved in accreditation of health, medical schools, but more importantly, interested in improving the quality of medical education, which is our ultimate goal and which is what we are really targeting. So thank you very much and looking forward to working together with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Golan, and thank you, Prof. Somaya and Dr. Nina. It was a great webinar. We learned a lot. Thanks for all our participants, and I'll leave Arshana to complete and to end this webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I take this opportunity to thank both the speakers and all our participants for a very interesting and inspiring discussion. Thanks a lot. And please give us your valuable feedback with the link which is being shown below. And any queries you have, you can mail us and we'll share it with the speakers and get back to you with their appropriate responses. Thank you so much for sharing us. Thank you.